My name is Rose Campbell. I'm 28 years old, and I'm sitting in my car outside a coffee shop, hands still trembling, trying to understand how 4 years of my life collapsed in the middle of a mall. I've been with Daniel Harper since we were broke college students counting quarters for laundry and splitting $8 pizzas like they were fine dining. We used to stay up until sunrise talking about our futures, his dreams of making it big in fashion, mine of building a stable career in finance. Nothing extravagant. Just a clean apartment, a dog, a life that felt earned. Those nights mattered. They were honest. And for a long time, I thought honesty was enough. 2 years ago, Daniel landed a coordinator role at a fashion startup downtown. He came home buzzing with energy that first week, talking about curated offices, ambitious coworkers, and how everyone dressed like they were already famous. I loved seeing him excited. I really did. But around the third month, something shifted. He started following luxury influencers, talking about investment pieces, saying image was currency in his industry. I understood that. Appearance does matter. When I moved from my junior analyst role into my current position at Morrison & Co., I upgraded my wardrobe too, quietly, within reason. Daniel didn't want quiet. Suddenly, every conversation bent toward money, toward comparison, toward what other men were buying their girlfriends. Mark just flew his partner to Napa for the weekend, he'd say casually. Ethan drives a BMW, and he's only 27. I'd nod, smile, remind him I was saving for a house. For us. Apparently, that wasn't exciting enough. Last month, the hints started. A $400 skincare routine. A $150 dinner, because we never do anything special anymore. Each time I adjusted my budget. Because I loved him. Because I thought compromise was what adults did. Today was the breaking point. We were walking through Valley Fair Mall when Daniel stopped dead in front of a designer boutique. Polished glass, quiet lighting, judgment in the air. He pointed at a handbag behind the display. I actually laughed at first. Thought he was joking. He wasn't. It's an investment piece, boss, he said. Successful men carry quality accessories. It reflects ambition. I did the math in my head. That bag cost more than my rent. More than 3 months of groceries. Daniel, I said gently, that's a lot of money. Maybe we could look at something similar? Coach has some great options around. The look he gave me could have frozen bone. Rose, this isn't about similar. This is about quality, about making a statement. He gestured vaguely around the store. I'm the only one at my office still carrying mid-tier brands. It's embarrassing. I reminded him, quietly, that his current bag was Michael Kors. That's entry level, he snapped. I need something that shows I'm serious. I could feel eyes on us. The sales associate kept wiping the same glass shelf. A couple nearby had stopped pretending not to listen. Daniel, I said, heart racing, that's half our vacation fund. We've been planning Europe for months. Maybe that's the problem, he said. His voice sharpened. I'm tired of shrinking my dreams to fit your budget. Our budget, I said. We're building a life together. That's when he said it. Loud, clear, cruel. You know what, Rose? You've never been enough for someone like me. I've been settling, hoping you'd step up, but you're always going to be small time, practical, safe. You don't have the ambition to give me the life I deserve. The words didn't just hurt. They exposed everything. The store went silent. I felt heat crawl up my neck. For a second, I thought I might cry. Instead, something inside me clicked. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized I didn't recognize the man standing there. Or maybe I did, and I'd been avoiding it. You're right, I said quietly. I haven't been enough for the person you've become, and I don't want to be. I turned and walked out. No scene, no shouting. Just clarity. I drove straight here. He's been texting nonstop for 3 hours. Apologies, accusations, requests to talk like adults. But here's the thing. I don't think adults humiliate the people they love. And I don't think I want to spend another day proving my worth to someone who sees me as beneath him. The morning after I walked out of that mall, I woke up expecting regret. That sick, hollow feeling people warn you about. The panic. The urge to apologize just to make the discomfort stop. It never came. Instead, my phone buzzed nonstop on the nightstand like a trapped insect. Daniel. Paragraphs. Voice notes. Missed calls. Apologies that contradicted themselves within the same message. I didn't mean it like that. You took it too personally. I was just stressed about work. You know how insecure I've been lately. By noon, the tone shifted. We need to talk like adults. You're being dramatic. 4 years doesn't end over one argument. But it hadn't been one argument. It was a truth he'd finally said out loud. That afternoon, he showed up at my apartment. I hadn't invited him. I watched through the peephole as he stood there holding flowers. My favorite kind. The ones I'd mentioned once in passing months ago. His shoulders were slumped, face carefully arranged into remorse. When I didn't open the door, he texted, "I just want 5 minutes." I didn't respond. That was the hardest part. Not engaging, not defending myself, not explaining something he already understood. Over the next 2 months, Daniel tried everything. Handwritten notes slipped under my door, takeout from my favorite restaurant left on the doormat. His best friend texting me paragraphs about how he's really struggling and he didn't realize what he had. What he meant was, he didn't realize I could leave. I asked for space, real space. He heard, "Try harder." But something unexpected happened in that silence. I slept better. For the first time in years, my evenings were mine. No last-minute events I had to dress up for, no emotional cleanup after his bad days, no subtle digs about how my career wasn't glamorous enough. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I focused. I'd been working toward a major professional certification for over a year, but progress had been slow. I was always tired, distracted, pulled into Daniel's orbit, his anxieties, his social expectations, his constant dissatisfaction. Without that noise, everything sharpened. I studied. I stayed late at the office. I rebuilt a sector analysis I'd half finished months earlier, renewable energy markets in Northern Europe. Most people thought it was risky, too speculative. I disagreed. I ran the numbers again and again. I refined the projections, questioned my own assumptions, rebuilt the model from the ground up. 3 weeks later, my phone rang. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered, and my life tilted. The CEO of our firm's parent company had personally requested to meet me. He'd reviewed my analysis. He wanted me on an internal advisory committee. Not as a junior voice, as a decision maker. Within days, my role changed. Title, salary, trajectory. I went from steady to visible overnight. New responsibilities, bigger rooms, conversations where people listened when I spoke. And Daniel didn't know any of this. I hadn't told him, hadn't posted, hadn't hinted, which made what happened next feel almost inevitable. The invitation arrived on thick cardstock, client appreciation dinner at a luxury hotel downtown. Black tie, high-profile investors, senior leadership. The kind of event Daniel used to talk about like it was a finish line. I almost didn't go. Then I remembered the version of myself who used to shrink to keep someone comfortable. I bought a dress, simple, elegant, nothing loud, and I walked into that ballroom alone. I didn't know yet that silence had been doing its work on him too, just not in the way I'd hoped. The ballroom smelled like polished wood and expensive perfume. Crystal chandeliers hung low, throwing soft light over linen-draped tables where people spoke in low, confident voices about numbers that used to make my head spin. I recognized faces I'd only seen in company newsletters, board members, major clients, people whose decisions moved entire markets. I was seated near the head table, not as decoration, not as a +1, as talent. When the CEO introduced me to a potential investor as one of the sharpest minds we've got, I felt something settle in my chest. Not pride exactly, more like alignment, like my life had finally snapped into the right place. That's when I saw him. Across the room. Daniel. For a split second, my brain refused to process it. Same posture, same carefully curated confidence, dressed in a tailored suit that screamed intention. He was standing with a group I recognized immediately, the startup crowd. Lots of black, minimal smiles, maximum performance. He wasn't supposed to be here. Then I saw the way he was holding onto someone's arm. A woman, elegant, polished. The kind of woman who belonged in rooms like this effortlessly. So that's how he got in. Our eyes met. His face drained of color so fast I thought he might be sick. His champagne glass slipped from his hand and shattered against the marble floor, not dramatically, just gone, like his body had stopped cooperating. The woman beside him fussed over the spill, murmuring apologies to nearby guests. Daniel didn't move. He was staring at me. I was seated at a table where people discussed 8-figure investments like they were grocery lists. The CEO was mid-sentence, explaining my renewable energy projections to someone with a private jet. Daniel whispered something to the woman and started walking toward me. I watched him put the mask back on as he crossed the room, the confident smile, the relaxed shoulders, the version of himself he used when he thought he was winning. "Rose," he said brightly. "Wow, what a surprise." The table went quiet. The CEO glanced at me, eyebrows lifting slightly, not annoyed, just curious. I'm well, I said evenly. Excuse me. I turned back towards the conversation. He didn't take the hint. Oh, come on, Daniel laughed. We can catch up for a second. It's been forever. He reached for the empty chair beside me. The CEO cleared his throat. I'm sorry, he said politely, but this is a private business table. Daniel's smile faltered. Oh, it's fine, he said quickly. Rose and I have history. We used to date. I felt heat bloom behind my eyes, not embarrassment, not anger. Secondhand shame. I stood, gently took Daniel's elbow, and guided him a few steps away. This is my workplace, I said quietly. Please don't do this. He blinked at me, confused. Your workplace? He laughed under his breath. Rose, what's going on? Why are you sitting with those people? Are you working security or something? I stared at him. Those people were my colleagues. My clients, I said calmly. I need to get back. He grabbed my arm. Wait, I've been thinking about us. I looked down at his hand on my sleeve, the same hand that once promised me a future, now clutching for relevance. That thing at the mall, he said quickly. I didn't mean it. I was stressed. I made a mistake. I felt nothing. No rush of emotion, no urge to explain myself, just a quiet sadness for the version of us that had already died. You were right, I said. You deserve someone who can give you the lifestyle you want. Relief flickered across his face. But that person isn't me, I continued, and I'm okay with that. He frowned. But look at you. You're doing so well. We could be good together now. Now. He heard it too because his expression shifted. I didn't mean, he started. I know, I said gently. Take care, Daniel. I walked back to my table. The CEO watched me sit down, a knowing smile tugging at his mouth. Old friend? He asked. Something like that. Across the room, Daniel stood frozen. The woman he'd arrived with was staring at him, irritation clear on her face as she checked her phone. I didn't see them leave, but I didn't have to imagine how that conversation went. For the first time, I understood something clearly. Walking away hadn't just changed my life. It had broken the illusion he'd been living in, and he wasn't done trying to fix that. For a while, I thought that night was the end of it. An awkward collision, a bruised ego, two people moving on in opposite directions. I underestimated how deeply Daniel needed to rewrite the story. It started small. 2 days after the gala, I received a text. Saw this article about young professionals breaking barriers. Made me think of you. I didn't reply. The next day, another. I'm really proud of how far you've come. We always made a good team. I muted the thread. Then the coincidences began. The coffee shop near my office, the one I went to every morning without fail. On Thursday, I felt eyes on me as I waited for my order. Daniel stood near the window, lifting his cup in a casual wave like we'd planned to meet. Later that afternoon, a text. Did you see me earlier? Crazy timing, right? I didn't respond. The gym was worse. I'd been going to the same place for 3 years. Same schedule, same routine. Suddenly, Daniel was there. Designer workout clothes, full cologne, barely breaking a sweat. He'd walk slowly on the treadmill, watching me between glances at his phone. Each time the same script. He'd changed. He understood now. He wanted to support my success. I told him, clearly, that I wasn't interested, that I needed him to stop contacting me. He smiled like I was being difficult, not serious. The escalation came fast. One afternoon, my assistant knocked on my office door, her face pale. There's a man at reception asking for you, she said carefully. He says he's your fiancé. My stomach dropped. Daniel had somehow convinced the front desk that he was there to surprise me for our anniversary. He'd nearly been given a visitor badge. When security intervened, he started crying. Loudly. In the middle of the lobby. We've been together for 4 years, he kept saying. I don't understand why she's pretending not to know me. Colleagues stopped, watched, whispered. I stood there, frozen, realizing this wasn't about reconciliation. It was about control. Security escorted him out, but not before he announced, to anyone who would listen, that he was fighting for our love, and that I was confused because of work stress. HR called me in the next morning. They were kind, professional, concerned. They asked if I needed support handling a personal situation that was affecting the workplace. I assured them I had it under control. I didn't. The final straw came at the company's annual charity gala. Invitation only. Major donors, board members, city officials. I was there representing our renewable energy initiative, introducing myself to people who could greenlight 8-figure projects. Then Daniel walked in a floor-length suit, champagne in hand, moving through the room like he belonged there. I still don't know how he got an invitation. When he saw me, his face lit up. He crossed the room and slipped his hand around my arm. Sorry I'm late, darling, he said loudly. Traffic was impossible. I stiffened. I was standing with 2 board members and the mayor's wife. I'm Daniel, he said smoothly, Rose's partner. The air shifted. I pulled my arm free. There is no us, I said, low but firm. You need to leave. His eyes filled instantly. Please don't do this here, he whispered, just loud enough for others to hear. Everyone's watching. Exactly. Security intervened again, this time faster. But the damage had already been done. Whispers followed me for the rest of the night. Confused looks, concerned smiles. Later, the CEO pulled me aside. Rose, he said gently, you're incredibly talented, but this can't happen again. Our clients value stability. Handle it. That night, I sat on my couch and scrolled through my phone. Over 200 messages. Photos of places he ran into me. Screenshots of apartment listings perfect for us. Timestamps, patterns, escalation. What scared me wasn't the volume. It was the certainty in his words. He spoke about our future like I'd never left. That's when I stopped hoping he'd get the message and started preparing to protect myself. I didn't want revenge. I wanted my life back. The next morning, I sat across from a lawyer with a neat stack of evidence laid out between us. Screenshots, dates, incident reports, written statements from security, HR notes, messages I'd never replied to. Seeing it all in one place made my chest tighten. This wasn't miscommunication. It was fixation. We filed for a temporary restraining order 3 days later. The judge reviewed the documentation and granted it immediately. Daniel didn't take it quietly. He hired an attorney who specialized in misunderstandings between former partners. His argument was predictable, that I'd sent mixed signals, that my career growth had made me distant, that his appearances were attempts to reconnect and be supportive. Except the timeline didn't lie. Neither did the security footage, nor the witnesses, nor the hundreds of unanswered messages. The permanent order was granted for 2 years. No contact, no third parties, no proximity to my home or workplace. The courtroom was silent when the ruling came down. Daniel looked smaller, not defeated, just exposed. No designer suit, no performance, just a man realizing admiration doesn't entitle you to access. The fallout came fast. The charity gala incident triggered complaints from major donors who'd witnessed the disruption. Questions were raised about security, professionalism, and about Daniel's employer, whose company had sponsored the event. He was fired within weeks. Last I heard, he'd moved back in with his parents and taken an entry-level job, far removed from the lifestyle he once told me I wasn't enough to support. I felt no satisfaction in that, only closure. As for me, everything stabilized. My firm stood by me. In fact, leadership quietly told me they respected how I'd handled the situation. Calm, documented, legal, no drama. I bought a house 3 months later, a modest craftsman in a quiet neighborhood. Solid, practical, mine. The renewable energy portfolio I managed outperformed projections by 23% that year. At 29, I was promoted again, this time with equity. Sometimes late at night, I think about the mall, the bag, the sentence that broke everything open. He was right about one thing. I wasn't enough for the person he became, but I was exactly enough for the woman I was becoming. And that made all the difference.